Hello and welcome to Alternate Ending, where we are still discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. This week, your host is me, Brennan Klein. You've heard me several times on the show before. I don't know why I had to explain that. Anyway, with me as always are other people you will have heard several times if you're listening, which you should be. I'm going to go in clockwise order based on how I see you on my Zoom screen. So I'm going to introduce Cameron Shaw first. That's your last name, right?
That is my last name.
Okay,
yes.
Great.
Good
the
job.
Zoom window just says Cameron, and I was just like, I know it. Anyway, yes. Cameron, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I just jumped on this, having just left work, so I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're very happy to have you. I literally just got back from a very sunny hike, so I feel like my brain is equally like some miles away in a way that I'm trying to wrench back to where we are.
Same.
And another way we'll do that. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God. Another way that we will do that is by introducing Brian Fowler. How are you doing, Brian? Welcome back.
I'm doing good. I don't have any exciting story to add to that. I'm doing fine.
Great. Because Brian has been here. How about you, Zev Burrows? Welcome back to the show.
Hello, Brennan, and hello all. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited.
Okay, great. Yeah, see, that's the East Coast contingent that we've been talking to. Like, they've had an evening, whereas Cameron and I are just slamming from day to night, like a classic film. Speaking of films, we have each brought one movie to talk about in the movie round table. I'm actually going to now go in reverse order. Zev, what is the movie that you brought to talk about the round table today?
So, in Zev-like fashion, I will be bringing something that is not current. I am going through. I think I mentioned one of the last times I did this that I was doing the Criterion Challenge again this year, and this week my selection was for the category of documentaries, and the documentary that I checked out was from 1991, called "A Brief History of Time," directed by the great documentarian Errol Morris. And it is based on a book by the physicist Stephen Hawking. And it is a combination of looking at Hawking's work and also his life. It's I think it's very approachable for people who literally do not know all that much about his work. I admit to sort of being a little bit in the dark, maybe just by combination of not having as much interest as maybe some other categories in the fields of like science or history, but also I think it makes him very approachable as well. There's a lot of interviews with him very personally, as well as family members. Some great interviews with his coworkers, and coming off of the Thin Blue Line, their second. I don't know about second, but their then most recent collaboration, I believe. Errol Morris hired Philip Glass to compose a score. Another outstanding work from Mr. Glass. So there's there's a nice sense of mystery and even a little bit of trepidation in the score. And I think it's a really nice, really personal movie. And if you have the Criterion Channel, I would strongly recommend it.
Do you feel like if people are very familiar with Stephen Hawking, if this will give them something? Like it sounds like it is personal on top of explaining the basics.
I think that it will probably be much more familiar to people who know a lot more about his work. They may find some things probably more about his personal life than more about his work. But if you are a Stephen Hawking nut, you will still probably enjoy it. I look forward to one day being a Stephen Hawking nut. And this got me closer to wanting to be a Stephen Hawking nut than The Theory of Everything from a couple of years ago.
Shocking.
Fair enough. How about you, Brian? I believe you have a more contemporary title to bring to the table today.
I do. I caught a movie that last episode I was on. I said the words, "I have no interest in this movie." But I did catch the new Karate Kid Legends. And basically, if you're familiar with the movie The Karate Kid, if you're familiar with the concept of legacy sequels, and you have seen the trailer for Karate Kid Legends, it is exactly the movie you thought it was. Except maybe a little less Ralph Macchio than the trailer will make you think.
Oh, interesting.
I was suspicious about
He doesn't show up until well past the halfway mark. But
Oh my.
But there is one thing that absolutely makes me recommend this movie. It is 94 minutes long.
Oh, that's refreshing.
Credits roll before the hour and a half mark. It's blessed. It's amazing. Otherwise, the movie was, yeah, fine, whatever. But it was
Okay, so
short.
you didn't have any interest going in, but do you think Karate Kid people will care? Because I've heard Cobra Kai people won't care.
I have not seen Cobra Kai, but as far as I can tell, there's no real connection to it. It is very much the legacy sequel mold of the same things that happened to you when you were a kid are happening to this kid you know now.
Mm.
You know, almost. It's like Creed, it's like The Force Awakens, but it's short. And we do not get enough short movies anymore.
How does Ralph Macchio hold up as an actor, as an adult? I haven't seen him in much.
Yeah, I think this is the first thing I had seen him in since My Cousin Vinny. So, I mean, he's fine. No one's going to throw any awards at him, but...
He's much more of an adult nowadays than he was in My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, that
was, 1992, I think?
I will say, I am a Cobra Kai nut. So,
okay.
I certainly think there are better performances throughout Cobra Kai, but he's very good.
Okay, great. Good to hear.
Okay, that's good. He's settled into the skin of Daniel LaRusso. And this is, a great opportunity for him to have his name above the title. That doesn't happen too often. But I'm curious, without spoiling, I guess, does Jackie Chan get anything actually action-y to do, or does he just kind of stand around?
No, he's actively training. The kid's name is Fong Li or Li Fong, whether you want to angleize the order or not, but which the movie does both repeatedly depending on who is talking to him. And he has one small fight scene where basically just destroys a couple of people because he's Jackie Chan and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of the training, and the funniest sequence in the whole movie is Daniel LaRusso and Master Han or Sifu Han is Jackie Chan's character. They're debating whether karate or kung fu is better and how to counter an attack by beating the hell out of Fong Li. Okay, try to punch me. Funniest part of the whole movie by far. Also, what is his name? Joshua Jackson.
Joshua Jackson
is in it.
Yeah.
And it's
Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh my God.
He plays the love interest's dad.
Oh, that makes me feel old.
Sorry.
Cool.
We're excited for a moment. The teen heartthrobs are now adults.
I'm still excited. He's on that terrible show on NBC or Peacock or something.
Oh, Dr. Odyssey?
Yes.
But no, I know the exact
Good
feeling, though, about
the
teen idols and now the parents was when I watched the first season of Riverdale and Luke Perry and Skeet Ulrich were two of the parents, and it was just oh.
Wow. Oh.
Anyway.
That's where we are.
Time marches on, and so do podcasts. So before we get too sad about all of that, Cameron, what movie do you have to bring to the table today?
Okay, well, speaking of people who are older than I'm used to them being, I think what I'm going to bring, because I've really only seen 2 movies in the last month or so, is the new Mission Impossible movie. I feel a little bad talking about it without Tim here, because Tim is such an avid Mission Impossible aficionado that I cannot quite do it justice. So this is, of course, the last Mission Impossible movie, quote unquote. I think it's actually the last Mission Impossible movie. I would be surprised if they tried to resurrect it again, but you never know. These things happen all the time these days.
I get the sense that it is entirely contingent on if it makes its extremely exorbitant box office or budget back.
I mean,
it costs. Yeah. It's one of the most expensive movies of all time. It cost $400 million.
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
think it's going to make it.
To break even, it probably has to make $1 billion just to break even.
I don't see it making that much.
I would be shocked if it made that much. My feelings have changed in the week since I saw it. I don't think it's as good as its immediate predecessor, but I don't think it's bad. My feelings when I came out was that was fun but bad. And now I kind of feel like I would see that again. The first hour to me was a real like womp womp of an hour. And I was sort of wondering how long I had to sit there, because there's a lot of recap. There's a lot of flashbacks. And there's a lot of how are we going to tie up all of these threads that I don't particularly enjoy in finale movies when they clearly are trying to fit everything in. However, then you get to the action stuff and it really picks up and it's fun. There's some, I don't want to spoil things because this is, the culmination of a series that I first, the first one came out when I was like 12, maybe.
It came out in
96.
Okay, so I was 12 or 13. And so this has been most of my life that this has been going on. And so I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody. But there are some great action sequences. And I will just say, if you are claustrophobic at all, like I am, there is a very long sequence where you might be... the sequence in the submarine, which is set up in the movie before, in Dead Reckoning, you might be hiding your eyes the whole time, like I was. So
it is a masterpiece of a sequence.
It's a great sequence. It's so far-fetched that, like, you kind of just have to throw all logic out the window. And once you're willing to do that, it's great. Yes, I did enjoy it. And I think everybody should see it if you are into that kind of movie. And I understand not everybody is, but it's just such a big movie that, you kind of have to just sit back with your popcorn and soak it in.
I'm hoping to catch it this week coming up. The problem is it's 2 hours and 50 minutes. And I had the choice between watching it or watching both Karate Kid Legends and Bring Her Back. And I don't know if I made the right choice.
You probably took the same amount of time.
Almost literally I think I would have left the theater about 10 minutes later if I went to Mission Impossible instead.
I did not see it in IMAX. I'm told from a reputable source that if you see it in IMAX, there is a moment where on screen, Tom Cruise is cranking something or screwing something or something like unscrewing something. I don't remember exactly. And he physically changes the aspect ratio on the screen from, I forget what the two different, from what to what. But that made me sad that I hadn't seen it in IMAX, to like do something that inventive with the format and the things that you have available to you. So if you can, I would say see it in IMAX if that sounds interesting to you. A moment where it's like almost breaking the fourth wall. Not quite. But characters interacting with aspect ratio makes me happy.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that kind of thing is really cool. And I feel like we might end up with certain things that are similar to that in our conversation later down the road today. But Zev, so have you... I mean, maybe. Zev, have you have seen Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning?
Yes, I saw it. I believe opening day. The opening day was the 23rd. I was there. I did not see it in IMAX, and I wish I had, because I had a blast with it. I mean, I do agree it is not as good as Dead Reckoning, but that's. Mm-hmm. I think that this will probably be the last one, also because Dead Reckoning did not. It I think a lot of people would probably say it underperformed. I don't remember how much it actually ended up making, but I mean, it came out like right when Barbenheimer was a thing, and
it did underperform to the point that they did change the name, because it was going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2. Final Reckoning is not enough of a move away from that, I don't think, but they sure
made
tried.
under 600 million, which it was the first one in the franchise to do under 600 since Mission Impossible 3 in 2006. So that's probably not a good sign.
Not so much.
I don't write a box office column like somebody here, but...
Yeah, sign up for my newsletter on ScreenRant.com.
I did.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But yeah, no, I'm immersed in box office, which is why I got very excited about interrupting you. So I'm sorry, Cameron.
Oh, no, please.
But speaking of, it is now my turn to bring a movie to the table. Another contemporary movie. We have alternate ending has taken to the aisles, except for Zev, which is fine. We like to represent the older movies as well. But the movie that I wanted to bring to the table today is Final Destination Bloodlines. It is another sequel. We're all dealing with sequels. I think it does not win for the most belated sequel discussed today, I think. But, because Karate Kid Legends comes after that 2010
2010 and this was 2011, right?
Yeah,
so.
But we're still, we're coming in 14 years after the most recent Final Destination installment. I'm going to spoil basically nothing about this movie because the fun is in the deaths and how they play out and who dies when and whatnot. But I will say the thing that made me most nervous about going into this movie is that I knew that the kind of organizing principle this time was that Death, who is the villain in Final Destination, was going to kind of be targeting members of a single family. And I thought that might have been too much weight to put on the formula of what these the reasonably strict formula of how these movies play out. But my nerves were completely soothed. I thought they nailed it. Everything they did made sense in terms of like how the quote unquote lore works and how I mostly don't give a shit about lore, but I give a shit about how it feels watching the movie and if it feels like it belongs in the franchise. And I felt like it did very, very much. It feels like it comes full circle in a lovely way, but not in a way that it will prevent sequels from being made, which will probably happen. I thought it was a lovely send-off for Tony Todd, who is back as the Mortician Bloodworth for the final time before his death in 2024. But it's also really playful. It's really funny. Another thing I was nervous about is like we're getting new filmmakers in here. With one notable exception, the Final Destination movies have been very consistent in terms of just delivering what it says on the tin. And somehow, the girl, you've done it again. You keep raising the bar for all of us. And this franchise, I mean, look, I love Part 4 in a way that many people don't. So for me, it's fully a no-skips franchise. But I feel like it very much lives up to what I wanted as a longtime fan of this franchise.
I loved it.
You've seen it, right, Brian?
Yeah, I saw it twice, actually. I absolutely adored this movie. The opening premonition disaster is spectacular.
Oh, chef's kiss. A great
and
one.
I had the exact same concern you did about instead of them being a group of friends or strangers, being a family. I thought that it hurt it. I thought it actually ended up being a very strong part for the movie. It gave the characters much more defined relationships and added a little bit of weight to the inevitable bloodshed and death. Now, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, spoiler alert, somebody dies in Final Destination Bloodlines.
A few people, here and there. There's a death or two.
Yeah.
And Brennan's the only one who, if you guys haven't seen it, Brennan's the only one to know what I'm talking about. But that little kid at the piano.
Oh, my goodness.
Worth the ticket price.
Very, very much. It's a good time. It is a romp insofar as a franchise that is as kind of nihilistic as Final Destination consistently is. It was a lot of fun.
It's not the best movie I've seen in theaters so far this year, but it's the most fun. I mean, it's not as good a movie as Sinners.
Okay.
Sinners is probably the best movie I've seen in the theater this year, but
yeah.
And it's definitely not that good, but damn, is it fun.
Yeah, I mean, I was not asking it to be that
right, exactly.
Makes me happy to hear that Tony Todd went out on a high note. I am not a Final Destination person. I don't think I've ever seen any of them. But Tony Todd was the lead in my graduate thesis film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was just the sweetest guy. This was in 2008. And I wasn't the director, I was a cinematographer, so I wasn't working one-on-one with him in an emotional capacity. But man, I mean, that guy showed up for a 9-day student film shoot on the beach in Long Beach. And it was sad to hear that he had passed away. So I'm glad that he's obviously left a mark on many different aspects of television and film, but it's nice to hear that his last movie is a good one.
Yeah, and it's very clear that they knew that he was on his way out. It wasn't like public knowledge, but they handle it very well, and they give him a very, very lovely swan song that also is just, still fitting with what he does in the franchise. It's an incredibly good. I don't know. I was just really impressed with all of the needles they managed to thread with that movie.
Excellent film. Really enjoyed it.
Highly recommend. But now it's time to talk about something else. And spoiler alert, Final Destination might come up again. But we are here today to talk about movie soundtracks. Specifically, this is something we were discussing beforehand, but specifically needle drops, not the instrumental score. We wanted Zev to be as out of his element as possible while still being in the general Venn diagram.
No, I mean, I was joking that this is a conflict of interest, but I am glad to be here for it.
No, I'm really, really excited to hear your input. I mean, there's so many ways to be talking about this, but I think the right way to start is talking about some of our favorite soundtracks, because there are soundtracks that are iconic, especially in the 80s and 90s when selling soundtracks was a viable thing that you could do instead of just dump them on Spotify and hope someone listens. But what are ones that mean something to you personally, or maybe ones that you owned, or what? Anyone can throw one out.
I think this one's half cheating because the songs are mostly performed in the movie, but I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if I didn't start with Purple Rain. It's basically the greatest pop album of the 80s, period. And even the songs that aren't actually on the commercial soundtrack that are done by Morris Day and the Time and Vanity Six are very good songs. Or not Vanity Six. It's, Apollonia 6. Sorry.
Apollonia 6. The name of that band was named after the 6 breasts of the 6 women in the band, or the 3 women in the band.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's
something. Yes, it is Prince. But no, I had to start with Purple Rain. It's not mostly needle drop. It is a couple of times in the movie, but it's mostly performed on stage. But it's one of the great albums of all time, regardless of soundtrack or not.
No, that's true. There are specific songs that I don't listen to all the time, but when I do, I'm like, is there any argument against this being the best song of all time? And obviously there's 5 of those that happen for me, so I guess there is. But Let's Go Crazy is one of them for me. I think that song, that intro really just is so hypnotic to me, and I can't not listen to the rest of the song, and the rest of the song is great. But I love that in particular.
That's interesting because I like that song a lot, but I might put it 4th or 5th on that album. So
it's a good album.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about you, Zev? What do you have one that feels like it's standing out?
There's there's a couple. So I don't buy as many soundtrack albums as I do film score albums. So I'll buy a CD of I think, what was the last film score CD? I forget, but I think one of the albums, soundtrack albums, that means the most to me that I do remember buying. A little bit of a cliche to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's Pulp Fiction. I think that in terms of his use of source music, Quentin Tarantino can be extremely effective and iconic, or it can be just totally wrong. But I think Pulp Fiction, for the most part, and that was also maybe the first time I had seen a Tarantino movie that just knocked my socks off at the time. And I think the moment he needle drops Dick Dale on the opening credits, you don't forget that ever. In the same way that I don't forget Let's Stay Together, his use of that when we're going into the club meeting Marcellus Wallace and Bruce Willis's character, I forget his name, Butch, for the first time. But I think Pulp Fiction has probably my favorite use of soundtrack music, of songs, of any of his movies. But there's a lot of different categories that we can talk. We can also talk not just about, I think we talked a little bit about it for Purple Rain, but songs that are specifically written for the movie that are not musicals. Like the one that comes to my mind is Fight the Power by Public Enemy, which was written for Do the Right Thing.
Yes.
And it belongs in the world of the movie. We hear it in the opening credits, and we hear it coming back again and again through Radio Raheem's music box. And that plays a very pivotal role in Do the Right Thing. So that's another one of my favorites. One more example, and this is a really nice bridge. This actually is connecting underscore with source music or soundtracks. It's at the beginning or after it transitions us from the prologue of the Coen Brothers movie, A Serious Man, into 1970 circa Minnesota. So we start in a Yiddish village somewhere in Eastern Europe, and we transition out, and sort of this canal takes us into the opening credits, where eventually we hear Jefferson Airplane's Somebody to Love. But what they do, and that comes up as a plot point in the movie, but what's really cool is the lead up to it. Carter Burwell, the film score composer, composed this like rock cue and got as closest to the sound of Jefferson Airplane as he could. The right guitars, the right percussion, the right microphones, the right amplifiers. And it's a really cool transition. So if you go back and listen just to the opening of A Serious Man, you see how cool it transitions into the Jefferson Airplane song.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing that can happen. And I really want to talk more about the interaction between score and soundtrack, but I want to finish the round on this topic first, but we'll put a pin in that for a second. But I'm really glad you brought that up. But Cameron, are there any soundtracks that are standing out to you in this conversation?
Sure. I also had Pulp Fiction on my list, and so I won't talk about that. However, my other three that I chose are very, like, I loved them as a young girl. I still love these soundtracks, but, like, the movies themselves I was really into as a kid, and so I loved the soundtrack and owned the soundtrack. The first one, and probably the most important, was the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which to me as a teenager just was so romantic, despite it being, because the movie was so like kind of sexy and romantic, and it was maybe one of the first like sexually provocative movies that I saw as like an 11-year-old. And so it really had a hold on me for quite a while there. But particularly the oh gosh, and now I'm of course forgetting the name of the song, but the song where they're the Hey Paul and Hey Paula song. I think, is that what it is? The one where they're crawling across the floor to each other and singing at each other, or lip syncing at each other in their dance. You guys are all looking at me like you've never seen Dirty Dancing.
I actually haven't.
I have, but not since
Brennan. Okay.
Last time I saw it was definitely on VHS. So it's been
wow. Okay.
decades upon decades.
I haven't seen it since
fair
college.
enough. And yeah, okay. So I am here representing the teenage girls of the world as a 42-year-old. And so there's a scene where Johnny, the sexy dance instructor, Patrick Swayze, and Baby, the main character, he's giving her supposedly a dance lesson. That's like the cover story for them having an affair, falling in love, whatever is happening with them. And they are lip syncing to a song that's on in the background and kind of crawling around on the floor with each other. And the name of the song, of course, is escaping me because I didn't write it down on my list, but I just wrote Dirty Dancing soundtrack because the whole soundtrack is just, it's a movie from the 80s, so it has 80s songs, like non-diegetic 80s songs, and then all the diegetic music is from the 50s and maybe early 60s. I forget what year it's actually set. That soundtrack, yeah, ruled my life for a couple of years. The other major one was Stand By Me.
Oh,
similar kind of era. Yeah. Similar era of songs with Buddy Holly and the Lollipop and all of that. So 1950s, 1960s kind of music, and then the big chill. So you can maybe tell that I was kind of into classic rock or early pop songs when I was younger, and haven't really bought a lot of soundtracks as an adult. But
yeah, well, they're not necessarily around, but I wanted to say, okay, two things. Well, first of all, I mean, obviously the needle drops in Stand By Me are so important that it is named after one of them, you know? Like,
yes.
That's not the name of the short story it's based on. And also, like, soundtracks are made, not always, but, like, being a teenager and buying a soundtrack are, like, two things that are very holistically designed for one another.
Absolutely.
Getting to like dig deeper into the world of the movie that you love. That's why the Twilight soundtracks are full of bangers. Like these are kind of designed to be symbiotic, and I think that I'm glad that you brought that into the sphere.
Well, I think there's also something to be said for a soundtrack really working for a period piece and being a very quick bridge to get you into the time period that you're portraying. So none of those movies were made in the era that they were set, but they get you there real quick with the music. So
and one of the ones on my long list was American Graffiti, which is doing the same thing.
I was just going to say real quick, it's funny because two of the things I was planning on talking about was the Big Chill soundtrack, because it's such an iconic soundtrack that kind of changed the business of soundtracks, and Tarantino in general. So we seem to be very much on the same page here.
That's good. We'll see if I can continue the trend. I don't think I will. So the soundtrack that I really wanted to talk about is from a movie that some of you might have seen, but probably none of you remember, and for good reason. It is the movie That Awkward Moment, which was a rom-com with Zac Efron, Michael B. Jordan, and Miles Teller, like navigating modern dating in New York City. And it is a deeply generic, bad movie. But the soundtrack is absolute wall-to-wall synth-pop bangers. It's not like very well-known bands. It's bands like Crozet, it's bands like Strange Talk, but it's like mid-2010s like retro wave synth music, and it's all glorious, and it made me, in the moment of watching the movie, made me feel like, is this a good movie? It's not, but the soundtrack really was sweeping me away. And insofar as like the 50s seem to be the thing that appeals to Cameron, the 80s are the things that can really hook me. Like a similar vibe in terms of just what the atmosphere is capturing. Adam Wingard's The Guest has a killer soundtrack. The Dan Stevens movie with him as like an unstoppable super soldier. Another bunch of kind of like, I believe modern bands doing kind of retro throwback, but very, very good kind of synthwave score. And I'm going to be super basic. I think the soundtracks to the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies are great. I maybe...
Yes.
Good. Oh, okay. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I maybe go all three, actually.
Ooh, I hard disagree on the third one.
The third one had Rainbow on it. I don't
even...
Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow is on the third one. That alone makes it great.
Got it. I appreciate that. I do think that the Dog Days Are Over needle drop at the end of that movie is one of the worst decisions in a modern film that I've encountered.
That's fair. And it was also the weird year where we had No Sleep Till Brooklyn showing up everywhere.
Yeah, in Super Mario Brothers and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And also, it was used worse in Guardians 3.
Yeah, but they put Rainbow on the soundtrack, so that sold it for me.
Okay, very fair.
One of my favorite bands.
I can appreciate that. But I think, like, for the most part, those first two albums are pretty unimpeachable. I wouldn't have put Escape the Pina Colada song on the first one. It's like a little overdone. But, like, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl and Come a Little Bit Closer, like, those songs fuck. They're just great songs.
They are great.
Well put. Yeah, good songs.
Those two albums are just banger after banger. From well before anybody called songs that.
Yeah. There's also there's some great needle drops. We're gonna get there in a moment, but especially in the first one, I've seen the first one more than the second one.
I think that's reasonable.
I feel like they use music well for mood in that movie. Both of those movies. I haven't seen the third one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, falling off of modern Marvel is a totally safe thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fell a while ago.
Yeah. But real quick, I wrote it down. I didn't want to skip it. I want to go back to talking about kind of how score can intersect with needle drops. And this is another I feel like this is just going to be me embarrassing myself. But one modern filmmaker who loves to do this in a way that I've really like perked up and taken notice of is Matthew Vaughn. He did it in Kingsman 2 and in Argylle. But Kingsman: The Golden Circle, for some reason, Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver is very important to that movie. I think it's because they brought the action to America for a lot of it. But there's like this bagpipe motif using that song that kind of recurs in the movie that I find really lovely. And less lovely, the Beatles song Now and Then keeps recurring in Argylle, but then it gets picked up by the score in a way that I was like, oh, this is almost good. But Matthew Vaughn likes to do it, and I wish he did it better and just made movies better.
There you go. You wish he did it in better movies.
Yeah. But anyway, on this topic, Cameron or Brian, are there things that are coming to mind for you?
Yes. I have no idea what the song is called, but there's a moment in the first Creed movie where it's playing the "Gonna Fly Now" theme from Rocky, just a score without the vocals, which there was already kind of score in Rocky even with the vocals, and it just transitions into, I have no idea what the song is, who the artist is, but it transitions into a hip hop song that, in the context of the movie, was absolutely electrifying. Yet I've never listened to the song outside the movie, but it's just a spectacular moment of music.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the pairing of audio and visual is the thing that makes the scene, and both are kind of equally important. And when you separate them, it doesn't work the same.
So this is something I was going to bring up later. And I don't know a ton about scoring. So Zev, forgive me for being an imbecile here. But the first thing when you proposed this topic, Brennan, that jumped to mind for me was the use of Hurdy-Gurdy Man in Zodiac and how it kind of sets the tone for the entire movie. And that movie does not have a lot of scores, but it does have some like singled out background tones. And I think it's a brilliant choice of a song for both capturing the era. I'm kind of a apologist for Zodiac. I know some people don't love that movie, but I think it's one of his best, maybe because they portray San Francisco very well, and that's where I'm from. But I think the haunting hurdy-gurdy man in the beginning of the movie and that first kill scene, and then how it's sort of followed up with these very specific, like, singled out tones. I don't know. I don't have a better word for that. So not being a musician, I apologize there. But that is sort of, I think, what you're talking about, how the two kind of play off of each other.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, and that can be really interesting when those things complement each other. And obviously they can't always, because sometimes people are slapping on whatever song that they could get the rights to at the very last minute. So it's nice when it feels holistic and it feels like it's part of that universe and something intentional.
Well, there's also other examples where a piece of music can be specifically written for a film where it can act as both source music and underscore. So one of my favorite examples, maybe my favorite example, is, we're going for way, way back. We're going to 1945 to a film noir called Hangover Square, which I think may have been talked on this podcast before. I think I probably recommended it to Robin Carey actually years ago. Bernard Herrmann wrote a one-movement piano concerto for the film, and it had to be structured in such a way that it ends with a lengthy piano solo. The climax of the movie is the performance of this piano concerto, but one of the things that they do is that they use the concerto as underscore as well for the main character, and they also use it in ways because the plot does involve a pop singer, so they manipulate the concerto to turn into pop music. So that can also be a way of how songs or source music and underscore intersect. Another cool way is how you can do variations on one theme, one song. And another favorite example is from a movie by Brennan's not favorite director, Robert Altman. A movie from 1973 called The Long Goodbye. John Williams wrote the theme song, The Long Goodbye. I forget who his lyricist was offhand, but it starts, there's many variations of The Long Goodbye, and as we hear it throughout the movie, it develops, it goes through ballad variations, it goes through more up-tempo variations, which help to underscore the moments and the character psychology. So that can also be a way how you transform a song throughout the course of a movie. That's another favorite example.
That's really interesting. I think that, like I said, it's like if you're building this holistic atmosphere for a movie, and the thing that isn't also embarrassing is that one of the things that when you talked about an original song kind of being developed for the movie but also being developed for the score simultaneously, it actually reminded me of the score for Friday the 13th by Harry Manfredini, who loves ripping off Bernard Herrmann. I didn't realize he was doing it in this way, but he wrote a song for that movie called Sail Away Tiny Sparrow that is very key to a lot of the underscoring, in addition to playing in the background as diegetic music. And so that's fun. He steals from the best, if nothing else.
I have two.
But also,
I have two many times.
Oh, I'm not saying that Harry Manfredini has seen further, but he has stood on the shoulders of giants, as we all should. But also, the thing you were talking about, Cameron, with Zodiac, kind of reminded me of another movie that's embarrassing to bring up, and I try to never talk about, but Inception. Because that big womp that Inception does, isn't that taken from the Edith Piaf song, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Just keep slowing it down each level of the dream. It's like, I actually think that's the most brilliant thing in the whole movie, is that bit of sound design and music. I'm not a huge fan of the movie, though, so grains of salt.
I saw it once in 2010, and so I don't have strong feelings about it. But I remember that music, and obviously because every trailer since then has stolen that music.
Yes, unfortunately.
But it's a good way to create intensity, but also do this in-universe thing, and that's really nice. Another one that does that. Just before we move on from this topic, I got 5 on it from Us, the Jordan Peele movie, and how it gets built into that creepy kind of remixed orchestral piece. That's really cool. That song sounds incredible.
Something you brought up earlier, Brennan, that I already forgot what the name of the movie you said, but talking about a bad movie with a good soundtrack. And although I haven't listened to the soundtrack since I was probably in college, but at least when it came out, the soundtrack to Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 is really good hard rock, heavy metal, hardcore soundtrack to a movie so bad I have never been able to finish it.
Wow.
You're reminding me of Tim's review of a movie called Brain Scan, which
I've seen.
I thought it had a little bit of a banger of a soundtrack. There's a song by the band Tad called Greasebox, which I'm a huge fan of.
Ooh. Wait, that's is that the Edward Furlong one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we did a Bride episode on that.
Yes, you did. That's why I watched it. I haven't forgiven you yet.
Thank you for your service. Yeah, one of the Patreons had us do an Edward Furlong month where it was like, well, obviously we're going to talk about Brain Scan because there's limited other options. But yeah, that period was so like nu metal and heavy metal and kind of more hard rock, like the late 90s, early 2000s. That was so huge for soundtracks then. Not my personal favorite period, but I'm very glad it has delivered for both of you. But I think since we're in the middle of this conversation, I think we got to take it down a notch. We got to talk about some of the worst needle drops or particularly bad choices on soundtracks. I want to start this off by throwing out in It Chapter 2.
Oh, God.
There's a part where the leper character vomits all over one of the kids, and for the exact duration of the vomit, which is like 3 seconds, they play the tiniest snippet of Juice Newton's Angel of the Morning.
Yes,
and
they
it's
do.
one of the most inexplicable and baffling choices I've ever seen in a movie.
I was so confused in the theater. It literally sounds like a mistake. Like somebody
really
put the
does.
wrong track in and nobody noticed until, oh shit, we already shipped the film.
Yeah, and they didn't do like a cat's butthole cut situation where they fixed it in post. It is there. It is there for everyone to enjoy forever. But are there any like particularly wrong needle drops that stand out to you, Zev? I'm gonna point it to you.
The one I keep coming back to is a movie from 2016, Suicide Squad. The very last song, I think it was Bohemian Rhapsody, and I remember seeing that in the theater, and I was so angry that I refused to see the follow-up.
Yeah, well, I mean, is it because it was a very bad choice, or is it because that song is overplayed and specifically has been a perfect needle drop elsewhere?
Both.
Okay, yeah.
I also take issue with Sympathy for the Devil in Suicide Squad, mainly just because I love that song and I hated that movie. But
That movie has a lot to apologize for.
yeah.
Well, and Suicide Squad has the disease of like every song is the first thing you think of.
Yeah, it's
for
too
that
on the
scene.
nose. Like, come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as long as we're talking about things connected to DC and somewhat to Zack Snyder, Hallelujah in Watchmen is maybe the worst needle drop in the history of film.
That's during the Dr. Manhattan sex scene, right?
Not the
Or
Dr. Manhattan sex scene, the Night Owl and Silk Spectre sex scene inside the owl ship. Yes. Oh my God, it's such a terrible needle drop. And I actually like that movie, but
Oh, there's one more. I just saw. So Netflix just had Fear Street Prom Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody asked for it, and they put Judas Priest in, and I was so angry.
oh, what song did they?
What do you
What
think?
song?
What do you think, Brian?
You got another thing coming or Painkiller?
It was You Got Another Thing Coming.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Yes, because that song's not overplayed at all.
Yeah, first choice disease, and Marvel has done this too. I mean, since the DC thing is happening, the Marvel thing can happen. Obviously, I talked about those Guardians of the Galaxy 3 needle drops that I do not like, but also, I guess not Marvel Studios, is Sony, Marvel, whatever. But in Venom 3, well, first of all, every song choice is again the most obvious. We're doing Space Oddity when we're talking about aliens. There's a dance scene. They're gonna play Dancing Queen, groundbreaking.
Oh God, now I don't want to watch the movie.
Oh, you shouldn't have wanted to before. It's not good.
I liked the first two, but
Okay. I mean, if you like Tom Hardy talking to himself, which I do, he does a lot of it very well in Venom 3. But there is a like flashback montage sequence that is scored to the song "Memories" by Maroon 5, which is one of the most. I could feel my teeth rotting out listening to that song.
it's literally a sledgehammer of music, huh? Like, do you get what we're telling you? Bang.
Yeah, not great. I will close out this part of the conversation by maybe being controversial. I think Luca Guadagnino has some of the worst needle drops I have ever heard in movies. I think Visions of Gideon in Call Me by Your Name is not a good song. I do not like it. I don't think it works for me. I know that's controversial. I can understand where that song's coming from, though. What I cannot understand is the Tom York song that plays during that final moment or that final act of Suspiria. I think it is slathering this treacly white guy rock over a scene that should be much more dynamic and interesting. And I think it ruins the part of the movie that woke up. And I was really disappointed by all of that.
Interesting. I didn't have a problem with the song. What is it? Visions of Gideon you were talking about?
Yeah, I just don't like the "Is it a video?" I think I don't like that.
I know what you mean. I have more of an issue with the amount of Sufjan Stevens in that movie, but I'm also just not a Sufjan Stevens fan. So, but yeah, that's a good call. Like, It's awkward choices, I think.
Okay, thank you. I was worried that I was gonna get burned at the stake for some of these opinions.
Yeah, I've never thought about it, but I agree.
Any insulting of Tom York music gets a pass from me automatically.
Okay, good to
Can't
know.
stand him. Can't stand them.
Well, then we can bring the tone back up. Are there some like separate from soundtracks? Is there like a needle drop? It could be in a movie that has a bad soundtrack or an otherwise soundtrack that you're not really paying attention to. But is there a needle drop that like just fits perfectly with the scene that you feel like you want to bring up?
I mean, I could list out almost any single Coen Brothers movie. I'm only going to mention one more. It is from their 1994 movie, The Hudsucker Proxy, where they use two pieces by the composer Kakaturian, and I probably have mispronounced. They used two very famous pieces of his, Dance of the Young Kurds and the Saber Dance, for the discovery of the hula hoop. And if that does not make you smile, I am
dead
lost
inside
hope for you. Yes.
It was a good moment. I agree. Yeah.
And a great movie.
Let's see. I mean, I have a very long list,
Ooh,
so
great.
I don't need to go through all of them. But I mentioned Hurdy Gurdy Man already. There are a few similar to that where I feel like the song itself just completely, you identified that song with the movie forever after, even if it was not written for that movie. California Dreamin' and Chungking Express, I think, is kind of a given. Like, I knew that song very well before I saw that movie in college, and then now I can't extricate the two from each other.
And that is an extra powerful thing, to be able to associate yourself with such an iconic song.
Yeah. Goodbye Horses and Silence of the Lambs. Like,
oh my God.
Greatest use of a totally unknown song. But, man.
If I understand right, whoever the artist who did that song, I don't know their name.
Q Lazarus.
Was just friends or had met Jonathan Demme at some point. And
yeah, I think I just met them and played him.
And just
I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Q Lazarus.
Me either. But played the song, and Demme liked it and put it in the movie, and it's such a perfect fit.
Yeah,
it is, and that movie has a solid soundtrack, because "American Girl" by Tom Petty is also another one of those songs that's like that's a song that was like kind of ruined by the movie, because now you're like, Buffalo Bill is stalking me. Like, it's one of the ones that makes you think about this terrifying scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. What else did you have?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, when I used to teach film in the summers, like high school film, we would show Silence of the Lambs sometimes, and there was one summer where the kids glommed onto that song like nothing I've ever seen and played it at our final dance the night before they all went home. And it was like their bonding song, which is weird.
It's a little bit.
It's a little weird.
I mean, American Girl or Goodbye Horses?
Goodbye Horses.
Oh.
The weird one.
Yeah.
Also shows up in Clerks 2.
Oh, I haven't seen Clerks 2. Interesting. I think every time that song gets played, it's like a reference to Silence of the Lambs.
It absolutely is a Silence of the Lambs reference in Clerks 2, but...
Yeah. And then the other one that I think like really just says that the tone of the movie is both In Dreams, the Roy Orbison song, and Blue Velvet in Blue Velvet. Like, David Lynch, I think, is kind of a master of soundtracks in a weird tonal way. Like, he's very good at putting a song in that sticks with you and takes over the entire tone of a scene, and then reusing it throughout the movie. The Blue Velvet is definitely... I wouldn't say I loved the whole soundtrack, but the use of those two songs sticks out for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of that retro sensibility, too, that we're kind of noticing here as a pattern.
Yeah.
Which is good, but there's so many solid songs that you can pull from that period.
as far as like needle drops that I think are super fun, that just kick in and you're maybe not expecting it. There's one of the zombie fight scenes in Shaun of the Dead with Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now" like playing on the jukebox, and they're like hitting zombies with pool cues to the beat is great. And then at the end of Bridget Jones's Diary, the fight scene between Colin Firth and Hugh Grant to "It's Raining Men" makes me laugh. And I think I've bashed the Bridget Jones movies on this podcast before, but that first movie I think is a lot of fun. It's just the follow-ups that I don't enjoy. So that was a good one.
As far as perfect needle drops go, for me, the first one I thought of when you said it like that, I do like the whole soundtrack to the movie, but artists I've only heard of because of this song, but Barry Lewis Polisar, I think is how you pronounce it.
We're talking about Juno, are we?
All I Want Is You, right at the beginning of that movie. It sets the entire tone for that movie. It's just so upbeat, bouncy, and the whole soundtrack, but that scene with her just walking down the street with that plane is one of my favorite things in that era of film.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, hipster culture of the 2010s as we know it would not exist without the Juno soundtrack or the 500 Days of Summer soundtrack.
This is true.
And Juno is exquisite. Like, all of those Kimya Dawson songs are really good,
yes. Too. And the use of the Moldy Peaches, Anybody Else But You, I love that movie. I love that soundtrack. But the All I Want Is You at the beginning of it is just so good. Then the other needle drop that goes all the way back to my very young childhood, and it's cheesy and it's silly, but Stan Bush's The Touch in Transformers the movie, both times they play it, it still pumps me up to this day. So it has since I was about 4 years old.
That's lovely. You need something to let you tap into that sometimes.
I don't think I knew that song. I don't think I've seen Transformers the movie. It's the one with Orson Welles, right?
Yes.
That's what I know about it. It's Orson Welles' last film.
But it was my favorite movie when I was 4.
Yeah, so sure.
A lot of mileage may vary on anything I tell anyone about that movie.
Fair, yeah.
But the soundtrack is just 80s cheesy hair metal, and it's great. Oh, and Weird Al Yankovic shows up on it.
What? On the Transformers soundtrack?
Yeah, he's Dare to Be Stupid is played in it.
What?
It
what
makes sense, too. It makes sense, but it would take so long to explain how we get to that.
That is okay. We don't have to. But that one thing makes me curious to see the movie. I've never wanted to. But okay, that's 2 things.
Yep, I like the way that you're hurt, Brennan.
And Orson Welles is in it.
And Leonard Nimoy, if you have any Star Trek love.
Wow, weird.
And Judd Nelson.
What?
Judd Nelson voices one of the leads.
Breakfast Club Judd Nelson.
Right around the same time. What
year was around the same time?
What year was
85, 86.
Okay,
85.
So 86 is when Transformers the movie came out.
Got it. I thought it was 80 for some dumb reason. But Zev, you turned your mic back on. All right, do you have something to add?
There's one particular song which got 2 almost perfect needle drops. I think it's kind of amazing that in such a short time period too. They were only about 8 years apart. These 2 needle drops. The song Tequila, which got an amazing needle drop in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the bar dance, 1985. And then 8 years later, not a roller coaster ride, but something similar in The Sandlot in 1993. Yes. I just rewatched The Sandlot again a couple of months ago.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, and perfect needle drop in both instances, and also it's just I think it's a good way because people have associations with both movies with that particular song. So anytime you can find a song that in a short period of time like that as well, because they were only 8 years apart, where you get a new association like that. That's I think it just says a lot about the creativity, the use of that song, and how you stage it too.
I'm glad you brought that up. Tequila is on my list too for Pee-wee, but I had forgotten about it in The Sandlot. So, cheers.
That is well used in both those movies. Yeah, I just thought of something from what Brennan said earlier about American Girl being kind of permanently ruined, and I thought of Steeler's Wheel Stuck in the Middle with You in Reservoir Dogs. It is this bouncy bubblegum Bob Dylan-esque song that is permanently associated with a man being tortured to death in my head now.
Yeah, those ironic needle drops can work really well, like a saccharine song in a really intense scene, because you just remember them. Like Insidious using Tiptoe Through the Tulips, the Tiny Tim song. That's creepy as fuck. And it brings out the scary bits from that are already there. But I did tease early on that we were going to still be talking about Final Destination. They love having a recurring song kind of represent the fact that death is lurking. In the first one, it's Rocky Mountain High by John Denver. Then you get a bit of Dust in the Wind in Final Destination 5. But my favorite is the least well-known one, which is Turn Around, Look at Me by the Letterman from Final Destination 3. It is one of those perfect songs that did exist and has existed for decades before this movie came out. But the movie recontextualizes it in such a way that it becomes eerie and it draws out those undertones, because it's that song is like, it's meant to be supportive, like there's someone here for you, but it's like, there is someone walking behind you, turn around,
creepy.
Look at me. Yeah. And it's a great song, and it's so creepy the way it's used.
There's another needle drop in Final Destination 3 that I absolutely adore, though. The Ohio Players Love Roller Coaster in the tanning bed scene.
The roller coaster.
Well, but it's played in the tanning bed scene, and although I have some issues with that scene being kind of ruler and more exploitative than the rest of the franchise, the song is perfect in there. It's a song that had existed for a long time, again, that I had never heard before that movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a saucily ironic choice. I think we're about reaching the end of this, but I did want to maybe we will close on this unless somebody wants to add something after. But yet another I'm gonna praise someone that maybe people are not ready for, but I think Emerald Fennell, the director of Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, has perfect taste for needle drops. The Murder on the Dance Floor needle drop by Sophie Ellis Bextor in Saltburn, iconic. But the choice of in Promising Young Woman, when Carey Mulligan is kind of bonding with Bo Burnham's character, and the way that that bond is forged most strongly is the fact that he knows and loves the song Stars Are Blind by Paris Hilton. I think that is a perfect choice for, like, you know, just like a silly romantic bonding thing where it's like this total throwaway single that does slap. It's a great song, but that, like, you wouldn't think that a straight guy like Bo Burnham would know or care about. And I really like the choices that she makes when it comes to needle drops. But yeah, I could talk about Paris Hilton songs for a lot longer, but I'm not going to.
The only Paris Hilton songs I know are on Repo, the Genetic Opera.
Yeah, which she's pretty good in also.
No, she is good in that movie. She fits the role perfectly. She was terrible in the only other thing I've ever seen her act in, which was an episode of Veronica. Nope, an episode of Veronica Mars. I've never seen House of Wax.
She is bad in that episode. That episode of Veronica Mars is rough.
I'm still determined to turn this into a Veronica Mars podcast eventually.
Okay, I will come with you on that journey.
Pushing a little bit further every time.
Yeah.
But today is not that day. But so unless anyone has anything screaming out at them from their notes that hasn't been brought up, I think we're gonna one more, and it comes from the Truman Show. And so it's a use of a piece of music that
seems totally foreign to the character of Truman until we start to hear it. And it's the moment where he meets Sylvia in the library, and there's like butterflies in both of their stomachs, and they decide right then and there to go to the beach, where she begins to spill the beans. I'm not going to say much more, but that scene, it feels like it was edited very, very perfectly to the second movement of Chopin's first piano concerto. And it just fits so perfectly because it feels like, again, it feels like music he wasn't aware of that existed, but he's starting to hear it for the first time. And it's kind of amazing. The use of Chopin in that scene is just wonderful.
I need to rewatch that. It's been a long time. Great movie.
It's been a long time for me too. It is a good movie.
Yeah, and you saying that, it does, I mean, you've talked about this already, but the idea that classical music is a needle drop is something that I wasn't really thinking about when I was compiling my notes for this, but you're totally right. Like, and you know, like 2001: A Space Odyssey doesn't work without Zarathustra. I don't know. I'm trying to say it in German.
Very late in the game too, because Stanley Kubrick had an entire score written by Alex North, which Alex North went to the premiere and there was Strauss, and he couldn't believe it. His score was thrown out at the last minute, and you know.
Didn't he end up reusing a lot of that music in a different movie?
I don't know if he reused it. There's definitely a recording that exists somewhere. That might be what I'm saying. Jerry Goldsmith did record it, but I think the original also exists somewhere. So I'm gonna have to look for it.
We'll follow up on that. But this is now the end of the episode. But I want, since people have enjoyed so much your opinions on needle drops, where can they find all of you elsewhere and other projects you're working on? If you have anything you want to plug, Cameron, where can people find you and your podcast?
Okay, well, my podcast is called Stony Brook Reunion, the Babysitters Club Book Club. It is a very niche, 3 millennial women discussing a book series that we read as 9 and 10-year-olds, and it's actually, we just finished our 3rd season. We're currently recording our 4th season. That'll start to release in the summer. And it's actually a lot of fun. Tim pops up on episodes every now and then. He's going to start joining us for the mystery books, which are not major mysteries. Spoiler alert. They're pretty obvious what the solution is when you are an adult. But it's been a lot of fun for us to revisit this with a critical adult eye. And I'm on Instagram. I have a few Instagrams, but my public-facing one is Cameron Narwhal, which has 1 N. And find me anywhere. I'm also on Letterboxd, places like that. So
excellent. How about you, Brian?
I don't have anything to plug in particular. Pretty much all my social media is Farwell3D, the number 3. Follow me on Letterboxd. And that's about all I got.
Great. How about you, Zev?
I just finished up a couple of projects, none of which are available right now, so I can't plug those. Okay. But I will be dropping them or links to them on my website when they're available. That's just zevburrowsmusic.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Zev Burrows Composer.
And you can find me on Instagram and the all of the Twitter knockoffs at It's Raining Brens. I'm also on Letterboxd. I have resurrected my project where I'm trying to watch every slasher movie from the 1980s.
Nice.
It was thank you. It was on hold for a couple of years because I got an actual job where I have to write full time, and it was just getting really difficult. But I'm back on the horse. I'm more than halfway through. I'm like 54.5% of the way through all like 490 of these movies. So I will drop links to those all over my social media, so you can find those there. I also do I am the host of this show sometimes, but I'm also always the host of Bride of Alternate Ending, which is the horror-themed sideshow of this here program. The next episode you get in this feed is going to be a Bride episode. We are closing out our quarter of talking about fast zombies by talking about the Taiwanese zombie movie, The Sadness, which Tim has never seen, and it is... Oh, that is a violent, very intense movie, and I'm very excited to discuss it with him. But yeah, until then, that's going to do it. Find more episodes of this show and others at alternateending.com, as well as Tim's reviews. Bye, everybody! Bye!